Aryan Isaha, and in this video, I would like to talk to you about acute renal failure. So let's begin with our lecture today. So what do we mean by acute renal failure? So basically, whenever we are considering the failure of a kidney, then it is approximately 70 to 80% of the parenchyma of the kidney that should be lost to manifest with the symptoms of acute kidney failure. And whenever we are talking about the term acute, it should happen within a very short period of time. And how much short means it is about hours to days. So the kidney will fail in the period of hours to days. So we should be talking about how what are the symptoms that are manifested with acute kidney failure. But more important than that, we should be knowing about the different etiology about acute kidney failure, and how can we and by knowing the etiology, we will be able to know about how to manage these cases, because the it is not the kidney which is damaged in every condition. We should manage the secondary causes that has led to the damage in the kidney, and hence the manifestation of acute kidney failure. So what is the major function of the kidney? So the major function of the kidney is to filter out the blood. So the major function of the kidney is to filter the blood, and this process of filtration occur at the level of glomerulus. So we can see in the glomerulus there is a especially there is a Bowman capsule, and there is an afferent arteriole which is divided into capillary network known as glomerulus. And in this capillary network there are certain forces which are acting. These forces are known as Starling forces, and due to this Starling forces, there happens to be filtration of the blood, and this process of filtration that is occurring under the pressure, this filtration is known as ultrafiltration. And hence there is formation of an ultrafiltrate from the blood, and this ultrafiltrate is being modified by the tubules, whether it is being secreted or whether some of substance is being absorbed from the tubules, and eventually what is appearing is the urine. So this is how the urine formation occurs. And whenever we are talking about kidney failure, the major compromise of the function of the kidney happens to be the defect in the ultrafiltration. And because of this damage to the ultrafiltration that happens in our day-to-day life, we are not being able to filter out the unwanted substance. So unwanted substance cannot be filtered out, and hence the level of the unwanted substance will be increased in the blood, and this will manifest with symptoms and resulting into the symptoms of renal failure. So what are the unwanted substance that is being filtered out in our day-to-day basis? These are our nitrogenous compound like blood, urea, nitrogen, and our creatinine. So blood, urea, nitrogen, and creatinine, they are being filtered out via the glomerulus into the Bowman space, and eventually the creatinine is not being absorbed. Instead, it is being secreted into tubules, whereas some amount of urea is being absorbed, very little amount of urea to be in fact. The very little of amount of urea is being absorbed from the tubules into the blood, and hence eventually what we find the urine is, we'll find the blood, urea, nitrogen, and we'll also find the creatinine in the urine. And this is all because of the process of filtration. So as I said, whenever there will be compromise in the renal function, there will be decrease in the filtration of the blood, and hence the urea, the increase, there will be increased level of blood, urea, nitrogen, and creatinine. As the level of bu and creatinine is increased, and this condition is known as azotemia, and azotemia is the hallmark of acute renal failure. So azotemia is the hallmark. So azotemia is the hallmark of acute renal failure. So let us talk about azotemia. And as I've already said, azotemia means there is rise in blood, urea, nitrogen, and along with that there is the rise in the creatinine as well. So we should be knowing what are the normal values of blood, urea, nitrogen, and creatinine as also. So what is the normal value of blood, urea, nitrogen? So we should know the blood, urea, nitrogen is about 8 to 20 mg per deciliter. It means that in 100 ml of blood you will be finding 8 to 20 ml of blood, urea, nitrogen. And the serum creatinine, it varies from different age group and from different sex. And we should be knowing that the level of serum creatinine in case of male is about 6 to 12 mg per deciliter, whereas in female it is slightly less, and that is about 0.4 to 1.1 mg per deciliter. And in children it is even lesser, and that is 0.3 to 0.6 mg per deciliter. And this is the amount of creatinine that is present in our serum in 100 ml of blood. So whenever we are talking about renal failure, so there is a condition where the amount of blood, urea, nitrogen as well as serum creatinine will increase in the blood, and it should be greater than these values, and that will manifest with increased level of blood, urea, nitrogen with creatinine, and that condition is known as azotemia. So for calling so basically when we are discussing about renal failure, this major hallmark feature is azotemia. So renal failure can be of two types. It can be acute or it can be chronic. So previously we used the term acute renal failure and chronic renal failure, but nowadays we have replaced the terminologies, and the renal failure is also referred as acute kidney injury. So we called acute renal failure as acute kidney injury. We'll be knowing that when we'll be discussing about the causes of renal failure, acute renal failure, and the major cause of acute renal failure is the intrarenal cause, and the most common intrarenal cause that manifest with acute renal failure is acute tubular necrosis, and this has been given the new name, and that is known as acute tubular injury, also known as acute kidney injury, and this is the major cause of acute renal failure. Hence, the term has been replaced by acute kidney injury as well. Similarly, I have discussed that the kidney failure. Whenever we are discussing about acute kidney injury, as I have discussed, there is the term acute, and it means that the duration of the course of disease will happen from hours to days. So, and whenever we are talking about chronic um, renal failure, so there has been a new terminology to chronic renal failure as well, and it is known as chronic kidney disease, and it can happen due to several etiologies that we'll be discussing in the next video. Whenever I'll be using the term chronic renal failure, I will be basically referring to the term chronic kidney disease, and chronic means at least the duration of disease should be more than 3 months, and this is the duration, hence the norm chronic is being used here. So as I've discussed, acute renal failure means it is defined as rapid but reversible. The term reversible is very important because we'll be knowing in a moment that whenever we are discussing about the pathogenesis and even the recovery of the patient, will be knowing that the most of the cases are reversible if we properly manage the cases, and hence the acute kidney injury is rapid and as well as it is reversible. Decline in the renal filtration function, as we have discussed, the major function of the kidney was to form glomerular filtration, and there is decline in GFR, and that has result into increased level of blood, urea, nitrogen, and creatinine, and this condition is known as azotemia, and this has developed abruptly within hours to days, and this is known as acute kidney injury. So what are the different criteria for saying that you have developed acute kidney injury or acute renal failure? So there are different criteria, and at least from these four criteria, at least one should be present to say you have an acute renal failure or acute kidney injury. So one of the criteria is that there should be increase in the serum creatinine level. The serum creatinine level should be increased by at least 0.5 mg per dl. So as I've already discussed, you can see these values here. So we have seen the values of serum creatinine. It is about 0.6 to 1.2 mg per dl in males, and 0.4 to 1.1 mg per dl in females, and 0.3 to 0.6 mg per dl in males in case of children up to 12 years old. And whenever we are talking that there is acute renal failure, the amount of creatinine should be raised by 0.5 mg per dl in all those cases. And if the amount of creatinine has increased to this extent, then we can say there has been an acute renal failure, and this is one of the objectives as well. So the next cause is that the next criteria is that at least there should be 50% increase in the serum creatinine level above the baseline value. So as I've discussed in this slide, we can see this slide where I have said that the baseline, let me clear this. So as we can see here, the baseline level of the creatinine is 0.6 in case of male, 0.4 in case of females, and 0.3 in case of child. So as the first criteria said that there should be increase in the serum creatinine level by 0.5 mg per dl. The next criteria says that there should be 50% increase in the serum creatinine above the baseline values. That means it should be above 0.6 in terms of male, 0.6 in terms of children, we are below 12 years of old. So there should be 50% increase in the serum creatinine level. The third criteria says that there should be decrease in the GFR up to 50% decline in the function of the glomerular filtration rate. So as we know, normally the GFR varies from age to age, but basically when we are talking about a reference adult, the basic GFR that we see having a person with a height of or the surface area of 1.73 meter square, the basic GFR that we find is 125 ml per minute. So the filtration rate is about 125 milliliters of blood is being filtered per minute in a person having a body surface area of about 1.73, and this is a reference male. So there should be decline in this, and approximately 50% decline in the GFR is considered when there is an acute renal failure. So 50% has been declined, means it is roughly about 62 or 63 ml per minute. So the next criteria is that there should be a need for acute kidney replacement therapy. So sometimes the kidney will be damaged to such a great extent that there will be rise in serum creatinine and serum creatinine and blood urea nitrogen, and this rise will result into a lot of clinical features that is known as uremia. And along with that, the major function of kidney was also to filter hydrogen ions and potassium ions, and this will manifest with hyperkalemia and acidosis because of the decline in the kidney function, and that will manifest with a replacement for the kidney, because the kidney has been damaged to a very great extent. And this is also one of the criteria for definition of acute renal failure. So there are four criteria you should be remaining, and not necessarily all the criteria should be present. At least presence of one criteria will define the presence of acute renal failure. So, in severe cases, acute kidney injury can progress to chronic renal failure, and that term, as we associated, was chronic kidney disease. And patients with severe acute kidney have oliguria and have anuria. So, what is oliguria and what is anuria? As we know, the major function of the kidney was to filter out the blood and eventually form urine. And basically, to filter out the urine, the minimum amount of urine that is required to filter our all the solutes is about 500 to 600 ml of urine. So minimal of about 500 ml of urine should be formed to dilute all the constituent and eventually to get rid out of it. And this is our obligatory urine volume. So this must be formed. So at least this much urine should be formed to filter out all the unwanted substance from our blood. So if the level of the urine that will be less than 500, so or less than 400 ml, and this because of this level the filtrate will not be enough, so that the level of the unwanted substance will be increasing in the blood, and we know this condition is known as azotemia, and that will be seen whenever the amount of urine that is formed is less. And if the amount of urine is less than 400 ml, then that condition is known as oliguria, or sometimes it may be very severe enough, and there will be very less amount of urine that will be found, and that is less than 100 ml per day, and that condition is known as anuria. So oliguria, as I've said, the urinary excretion will be less than 400 ml per day, and anuria means the urinary excretion is less than 100 ml per day. And you should be knowing the fact that 500 ml urine formation is the obligatory urine volume that should be formed to get rid out of all the unwanted substances. And if we are not forming urine less about 500 ml, then basically we are accumulating the unwanted substance in our blood, and that is manifesting with acute kidney failure. So what are the etiology of acute kidney renal failure or acute kidney injury? So as I've discussed there, so let me make a kidney. So this is our kidney, and this is our ureter, and this is our blood vessel. So as we know, this blood vessel will go into the kidney, and eventually it will divide into several afferent arterioles, efferent arterioles, and in between them we will find the glomerular capillaries. So as I have already made in the last slides, so this is, let us consider this is our glomerular capillaries, and this is our Bowman space. And eventually what happens is that this is our afferent arteriole and this is efferent arteriole, and the afferent arteriole is bringing the blood, whereas efferent arteriole is draining the blood. And this is our tubules, and the tubules will eventually unite to form the collecting duct, and this collecting duct will unite to form larger collecting duct, which will open at the tip of the renal papilla as duct of Bellini. So these are the tips of renal papilla, and the opening here is duct of Bellini, and from here the urine will be collected into minor calyces, and from the minor calyces it will be collected into the major calyces, and from the major calyces it will be collected into the renal pelvis, which will let the urine to be flowed out from the kidney as in the form of ureter, and the ureter will carry the blood into the urinary bladder, and from the bladder the urine is taken away via the urethra, right? So we have seen the blood vessel component, and we have seen the tubular component as well. So whenever there will be a decreased amount of blood flow here, so let me discuss about the process of ultrafiltrate for a moment. So let us make so in this blood vessel, as we see in this glomerulus, there are several forces which are being functioning in this kidney that will help in the process of ultrafiltration. As we can see, the diameter of the afferent arteriole is greater than the efferent arteriole, so more amount of blood will be coming than it is leaving. So as because of this, the hydrostatic pressure will be high in case of glomerular capillaries, and it will be approximately 50 mm of Hg. So it is approximately 60 mm of Hg. The 60 mm Hg will be the hydrostatic pressure which will be present in the glomerular capillaries. And along with that, what will be happening is that in this glomerular capillaries, there will be oncotic pressure, and this oncotic pressure is approximately 32 mm of Hg. 32 mm of Hg, and this oncotic pressure will try to prevent this ultrafiltration. So this oncotic pressure will try to take the blood into the capillaries, whereas the hydrostatic this hydrostatic pressure will try to force out the blood from the capillaries into the glomerular, into the Bowman space. So these are our forces which are present within the capillaries, whereas similar forces are present within our Bowman space. As we know, in the Bowman space, the filtrate is formed, and this filtrate, which is formed in the glomerulus, it will itself exert certain hydrostatic pressure, and this hydrostatic pressure is approximately 18 millimeter of mercury, and this 18 millimeter of mercury will prevent the amount of filtrate that is being formed, and hence will stop the process of it will likely to decrease the process of ultrafiltration. And the next process, as we can see that in this glomerulus, so in this glomerulus there practically no protein is being filtered. As no protein is being filtered into the glomerulus, so there are no proteins in the Bowman space, and because there is no protein in the Bowman spaces, so the oncotic pressure in the Bowman space will be practically zero. So because of this process of this pressure, so 60 mm mercury will help to filter out the blood, whereas it is being opposed by 32 millimeter of mercury, which is the oncotic pressure, and that will try to retain the blood. And also there is 18 millimeter of mercury, which will also try to retain the blood into the capillaries. And because of this, the net filtration pressure will be about 10 millimeter of mercury, and this 10 millimeter of mercury is the filtration pressure, and that will unite with the filtration coefficient, and that is basically 12.5, and hence the total filtration GFR becomes, the total GFR is about 125 millimeter of ml of blood that is being filtered every so by the two kidneys. So this is all about the how the kidney will filter the blood. So we were talking about the etiology. So if so the etiology can be pre-renal cause, so pre-renal cause, or it can be intra-renal cause, or it can be post-renal cause. So what does pre-renal cause means? So as I've already discussed, so this is our afferent arteriole, this is our glomerular capillary, and this is our efferent arteriole. Uh, so let me make this Bowman space, and this is our table. So let us discuss about pre-renal cause. So pre-renal cause means the cause is present, not present within the kidney. The cause is present before the kidney. So what comes into the kidney is our blood. So the blood comes via the afferent arteriole. If the blood and this because of the blood that is presenting in the afferent arteriole, it will maintain a hydrostatic pressure of about 60 millimeter of mercury. So 60 mmHg is our hydrostatic pressure. If the amount of blood flow is being decreased, then what happens is that the hydrostatic pressure will be also decreased, and because the hydrostatic pressure is decreased, the GFR will also decrease, and because the GFR is decreased, the process of ultrafiltration is being less, and because there is decreased ultrafiltration, it means that the blood urea nitrogen and creatinine is not being filtered properly and not being filtered adequately, and hence the level will be increased, manifesting with azotemia, and that will manifest with pre-renal cause of acute renal failure, and it is also known as pre-renal azotemia. So we have I think we are clear with the pre-renal azotemia part of the part where I have discussed that there will be decreased blood flow to the kidney, and because of this decreased blood flow, this will manifest with pre-renal azotemia. The next cause is intrarenal cause. So intrarenal cause we'll be discussing in the next video. That will be about acute tubular necrosis, and that will be a very important video to be discussed. And I'll be talking more about intratubular cause in that video, but let me mention the causes within the kidney as well. So intratubular cause means there is a defect within the kidney. So the defect can be level at the level of glomerulus, it can be at the level of the tubules, or it can be at the level of interstitium, or it can be at the level of the blood vessels that is supplying the kidney. So this will manifest with azotemia, because at the kidney, as the kidney is being damaged, because of the damage in kidney, or the kidney will not be able to perform the ultrafiltration, and because of this decrease in ultrafiltration will manifest with azotemia, and that is known as intrarenal azotemia. So problem within the kidney will manifest with intrarenal azotemia, but mind you, I'll be talking a lot of detail about this in the topic of acute tubular necrosis, and acute tubular necrosis is the major cause of acute renal failure altogether. So the third cause is that is known as post-renal azotemia. So post-renal azotemia, what do we mean by post-renal azotemia? So as we discussed, the kidney will eventually form the urine, and the urine will be carried via the collecting system, that is our tubule, that is our collecting duct, and the renal pelvis, and all the structure that I mentioned a few minutes back. and eventually that will be taken care of by the urethra, and eventually that will be expelled. And if there is a point of obstruction in any level of the collecting system, so if there is point of obstruction here, then what happens is that the filtrate, that the amount of the filtrate that will be formed in the tubules, that will eventually accumulate. And because of this accumulation of this filtered, what happens is that there will be increase in the hydrostatic pressure within the tubules, and this hydrostatic pressure will oppose the process of ultrafiltration. And because of this fact, what happens is that there will be decrease in the net filtration pressure, and because of this there will be decrease in the GFR, and because of the decrease in the GFR, this will manifest with post-renal azotemia. These are all about the etiology of the acute renal failure, so or acute kidney injury. So as I discussed, it can be pre-renal cause. What are the pre-renal cause? As I discussed, in pre-renal cause, the kidney are absolutely normal, and it occurs because of the decreased blood flow to the kidney, and it can happen due to hypovolemic condition. It can be due to cardiogenic condition, or it can be due to septic shock. I'll come to it in a moment. So so let me complete this. And also there can be intrarenal cause of acute kidney injury or acute renal failure. So what are the intrarenal cause? It can be due to damage to the glomerulus at the level of tubules, or at the level of interstitium, or at the level of the blood vessels which are supplying the kidney. So and it can be due to ischemic cause, or it can be due to toxin, or due to inflammation in the glomerulus, as I've discussed, and that will manifest with damage to the glomerulus, or even damage to the intrarenal mechanism of the blood flow, and that will manifest with increase in the blood urea nitrogen and creatinine level, and this will manifest with acute kidney injury. The third cause, as I mentioned, it is post-renal acute kidney injury, and it results from the obstruction of the passage of urine. And because of the obstruction of passage of urine, it will manifest with increase in the hydrostatic pressure within the tubules, and this hydrostatic pressure will oppose the ultrafiltration, or it will oppose the net filtration pressure, and because of this there will be decrease in the net filtration pressure, and that will manifest with decrease in the GFR. As there will be decrease in the GFR, this will result into acute renal failure as well. So let us discuss our first cause, and that is our pre-renal acute renal failure. So regarding the intrinsic causes, I'll be making a next video about acute tubular necrosis, where we'll be discussing how there will be decrease in the GFR due to tubular damage or glomerular damage. So we'll be discussing that in the next video. So let us come to our discussion, and this discussion is regarding the pre-renal azotemia. So pre-renal azotemia, as I've discussed, it results due to decrease in the blood flow to the kidney. So this result in decrease in the blood flow to the kidney, and it is one of the common cause of the acute renal failure, but not the commonest. So what happens is that whenever there will be decrease in the blood flow to the kidney, as I've already discussed, there will be decrease in the GFR, and that will manifest with azotemia. So what are the causes behind decrease in the blood flow to the kidney? So it can be due to volume depletion, and volume depletion can happen due to renal loss whenever we are using a lot of diuretics, or whenever there will be polyuria in condition where there is decrease in the amount of ADH. And in this condition, what happens is that there will be decrease in the blood volume. Also it can happen due to GI losses. And what are the GI losses? Because our GI tract is also handling the water, and whenever there will be GI losses in the form of vomiting and diarrhea, this will also manifest with decrease in the blood volume. Also cutaneous losses that happens in the scenario of burns. In burns, what happens is that there will be a lot of fluid loss, and that will manifest with severe dehydration, and that happens and this will result into decrease in the blood flow. And it is also associated with hemorrhage, and this hemorrhage can be acute or it can be chronic hemorrhage. In acute cases, it can be due to loss of blood from in case of scenario of road traffic accident, or other causes as well, where there will be severe compromise in the or severe dehydration, and that will manifest with decrease in the blood flow. Not so this will happen, and these are the causes of pre-renal causes of acute renal failure. And the first cause that we discussed was volume depletion. And decreased blood flow to the kidney can also be due to decrease in the cardiac output. Whenever there is a decrease in cardiac output, less amount of blood will reach the kidney, and less amount of blood, if it will reach the kidney, and if the kidney is normal, and that condition is known as pre-renal azotemia. And what are the condition where we see decrease in the cardiac output? We can see that in case of heart failure, and even in case of acute myocardial infarction, and the kidney is not in that case the heart is not able to pump out the blood enough stroke volume is not being generated, and because of this there will be decrease in the cardiac output, and this decreased cardiac output will manifest with prerenal azotemia. Not just that, it can also be due to systemic vasodilatation, and systemic vasodilatation occur in case of shock, and that shock can be septic shock or it can be due to anaphylactic shock. And because of the systemic vasodilatation, the amount of blood that is reaching to the heart will be less, and if the amount of blood that reaching to the heart will be less, there will be decrease in the Frank Starling forces, and when the Frank Starling forces will be less, the amount of blood that is pumped by the heart, that is the stroke volume, will be decreased, and if the stroke volume will be decreased, it will manifest with decrease in the blood flow to the kidney and eventually causing pre-renal azotemia. Everything what happened in pre-azotemia was there was a decrease in the blood flow to the kidney, and because of this decrease in the blood flow to the kidney, this manifested with decrease in the GFR, and because of the decrease in the GFR, and this led to azotemia, and along with azotemia, it also led to oliguria. So normally what happens is that in our blood, the serum levels of creatinine and blood urea nitrogen, they are basically maintained by the kidney, and the and as I have already discussed in the previous part of the lecture, the creatinine is being filtered through the kidney, and additionally what happens is that it will also be secreted by the tubules of the kidney, whereas urea, it is being absorbed from the tubules into the blood as well. So in our blood, the normal ratio of BUN to creatinine, so BUN to creatinine ratio in our normal blood, it is about 15:1. So the value is about 15.5:1, or even you can say 15:1. Basically, there is a range, but the best value that is being considered is about 15. So, but what happens in case of pre-renal azotemia is that as the GFR is being decreased, the blood urea nitrogen and creatinine will also decrease. So one would expect that as the blood urea nitrogen and creatinine is being both are being increased, then one would expect that the ratio would be 15.5:1. But that does not happen, because in case of prerenal azotemia, there will be increase in blood urea nitrogen and increase in the creatinine, but the ratio, however, doesn't remain the same, and the ratio will be more than 15:5, and the ratio will be more than 15:5. So let me discuss why does this happen. So as we know that normally what happens is the blood urea nitrogen, so this is our glomerulus and this is our Bowman space. So BUN and creatinine is being filtered through the kidney, and as I've discussed that little amount of BUN is being absorbed from the tubules into the blood vessels, so it is being absorbed into the blood vessels, and the creatinine is being secreted. So what happens is that in case of prerenal azotemia, there is decrease in the blood flow, and because of this decrease in the blood flow, there is decrease in the GFR, and because of the decrease in the GFR, there will be decreased blood flow to the kidney, and this will result into increase in activation of renin, angiotensin, and aldosterone system. And because of the increase in the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, that will manifest with increased level of aldosterone, and this increased level of aldosterone will result into increased absorption of sodium along with water. So because of there is increased absorption of sodium along with water, with the water there will be increased absorption of blood urea nitrogen as well. So we know that the level of BUN and creatinine both are increasing, but BUN is being additionally absorbed, and because of this, the level of BUN will be increased more as compared to the creatinine, and hence the ratio will be more than 15:5. And this is very important to know the ratio between BUN and creatinine to differentiate different etiology of azotemia, and increase in the BUN to creatinine ratio more than 15.5. It will basically it will refer to pre-renal azotemia as well. So another thing that I would like to discuss is that in pre-renal azotemia, there has not been any pathology to the kidney in the initial form of disease. So the kidney is absolutely normal. So the tubules within the kidney are also normal. As the kidney, the function of the tubule was to reabsorb the sodium, and we know in our day-to-day scenario, 99 more than 99% of sodium is being absorbed by the tubule into the blood, and in our urine, less than 1% of the sodium is being excreted in the urine, and this is known as FeNA. So this is known as functional excretion of sodium, and in our day-to-day scenarios, what happens is that the functional excretion of sodium is less than 1%. It is less than 1%, and in prerenal azotemia, as the kidney is absolutely normal, the functional excretion of sodium is also less than 1%, and this will say that the tubule is still able to concentrate the urine, and the tubule is still able to reabsorb the sodium as well. So the Next cause of ARF was, as I've discussed, it was due to intrinsic causes, and I'll be discussing the intrinsic cause in the next video, especially discussing regarding the acute tubular necrosis. And but let me discuss that. In case of intrinsic causes of acute renal failure, it can be due to damage to the glomerulus, or it can be due to damage of the tubular epithelium. If there is damage to the glomerulus, it will also result in decrease in the GFR, and if there will be damage to the tubular epithelium, it will result into increased tubulo-glomerular feedback, and this will manifest with decrease in the GFR. And eventually, due to decrease in the GFR, it will manifest with intrarenal azotemia. So the next cause of azotemia is postrenal cause, and postrenal, as I've already discussed, it is due to obstruction to the urinary outflow. So as I've discussed, this is our kidney and this is our ureter, and from the ureter, it is eventually draining the urine into the bladder, and from the bladder, it is being carried into the urethra. So there can be obstruction at the level of the ureter, and it can be due to stones or tumor. Not just that, it can be due to obstruction at the neck of the urinary bladder, and it can be in the neck of the urinary bladder. As we know, there is presence of prostate gland, and in obstruction at the neck of the urinary bladder will actually constrict the urethra, and that will manifest with postrenal azotemia as well. So it can happen due to BPH, it can be due to cancer of the prostate. So it is basically due to prostatic cause. And the next cause is due to obstruction of the urethra, and this urethra obstruction can be due to tumors, or it can be due to strictures in the urethra, and this will manifest with it increase in the hydrostatic pressure within the tubules, and this will oppose the GFR, and because of this there will be decrease in GFR, and this will manifest with azotemia, and that is a postrenal azotemia. So whenever we are talking about postrenal azotemia, there is an obstruction in the urinary tract downstream to the kidney, and this will manifest with increase in the back pressure, and this will manifest with azotemia and oliguria. So in the early stage of postrenal azotemia, there will be increase in the tubular pressure, and because of the increase in the tubular pressure, it will force the blood urea nitrogen into the blood. So let me make this is a tubule, and constantly blood urea nitrogen and creatinine is being filtered. So one might ask why creatinine is not being absorbed, because there is no receptor to absorb the creatinine. Creatinine is instead being secreted into the tubules, whereas the blood urea nitrogen has receptors, not receptor, the transporters, and these transporters are UTA1, UTA2, UTA3, and there are several other transporters which will work depending on the diffusion coefficient. Right? So whenever there will be obstruction, there will be increased backflow of the urine, and because of the increased backflow of the urine, there will be high pressure within the tubules, and this high pressure within the tubules will lead to increased absorption of blood urea nitrogen, and because of the increased absorption of BUN, the BUN to creatinine ratio will now it will be more than 15.5, and this can happen in early stage of post-renal azotemia. But what happens, and also as I've discussed, the tubules are absolutely normal in case of post-renal azotemia, and in the initial course of disease, the tubules are absolutely normal, and because of that, there will be absolute absorption of sodium, and the FeNA, that is the functional excretion of sodium, will also remain less than 1%. But if we go and trace the disease for a long period of time on long-standing obstruction, what happens is that due to long-standing obstruction, that will result into tubular damage. So it will result into tubular damage. So tubule will be damaged. So let me consider this a tubule, and we can make the lining epithelium like this. And as we see, there has been an obstruction, and because of the obstruction, there will be increased backflow of the urine, and this backflow of the urine will result into increase in the tubular pressure, and this will lead to damage of the tubular cells and damage of the tubules. And because of the damage to the tubules, now we have knocked out, or we have damaged the transporters. So the urea BUN, or we can as I've discussed, the urea transporter, the UTA1, UTA2, and the several other urea transporter, they are decreased, and as the urea transporter are decreased, now the urea cannot be reabsorbed into the blood, and hence because of this, the BUN to creatinine ratio will be less than 15.5. But mind you that the BUN and creatinine both are increasing, but in this case, the level of BUN is not increasing from the tubules, as we have discussed in the part of lesson. But you should be knowing that both the BUN and creatinine is being increased, as they are being less filtered into the blood. So this concept should be cleared. And also, as there has been damage to the tubules, and because of the damage to the tubules, the functional excretion of sodium, now it will be more than 2%. And along with that, the tubules, as the function of the tubule was to concentrate the urine, Now the tubule cannot concentrate the urine, and now it will manifest with the osmolarity of the urine being the osmolarity of the urine will be less than 500 milliosmol, and because of this happens because of the decreased concentrating ability of the urine, and the urine will not be as concentrated. In day-to-day scenario, the maximum concentration ability of the urine is about 1200 to 1400 milliosmol, and as the tubule is damaged, now the tubule will not be able to it will not be able to concentrate the urine, and the osmolarity will be less than 500 milliosmol. And this is also a matter of fact to be known in case of long-standing obstruction and leading to post-renal azotemia. And you must be knowing that azotemia is increase in the BUN and creatinine. And as I have discussed, the normal day-to-day scenario BUN to creatinine ratio is about 15.5. So it is about 15.5, or even you can remember as 15. But whenever there will be azotemia, there will be increase in both BUN and creatinine. But in case of early stage of post-renal azotemia, or in case of pre-renal azotemia, BUN will be absorbed into the blood. So the level of BUN will be more as compared to the creatinine. Hence, the ratio will be more than 15.5. Whereas in case of long-standing obstruction, as there has been damage to the tubules, the BUN creatinine ratio will be less than 15.5, and this should also be known along with the other tubular factors like the FeNA will be more than 2%, and the osmolarity of the urine will be decreased, and it will be less than 500 milliosmol per liter. And by this way, in this way, we have completed some parameters regarding the acute renal failure. But one thing is remaining, and that is our the intrarenal cause of acute kidney injury or intrarenal cause of acute renal failure. So I'll be the next video that I'll be making is about acute tubular necrosis and the intrarenal causes. And along with that, I'll also be making the video on chronic kidney disease or chronic kidney failure. And this will be also an important video because I'll be discussing about renal osteodystrophy, the renal cause of anemia, and several other complications that you will be manifesting with a person having kidney that has been damaged for more than 3 months of period. And that will be chronic kidney disease discussion in the next video as well. So thank you very much for your patient listening.